Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not So Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Vagrant Queen. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, the team is, trying to enact their plan of sneaking into Republic space. I love that they, Elida has, the whole, map and everything, and it's like, oh, Isaac's like, okay, so who's what again? And she points out, it's like, you're this piece, and this piece, and this dead bug is me. And then the dead bug starts moving, and it's just and I love they don't really acknowledge it too much. It's just like Clive hands her that thing, that pink thing, and it's just like, okay, this is going to represent me. I'm like, I love we just don't even acknowledge that. But I also loved a bit where it's like, why aren't you just using Winnie's 3D map? And she's like, because I worked on this for an hour. Plus, that was before I found out that Winnie could do that. So, kind of defeating the purpose of it. But I also love Clive being the way he is, talking about the fact is that, if anyone doesn't get on a ship within an hour of the plan working out and everything, then they end up getting left behind. And just the fact is him looking at people as food and stuff like that, just kind of licking his lips and just it's like, you gotta be so weird, dude. I even love, Irid is kind of like, oh, shouldn't we all stick together? And he was like, nah, we should follow Elida's plan. And Irid's looking at the others and being like, see, I try to get it so that we could all stick together so we don't have to be on Clive's ship, but sadly we're gonna have to be on Clive's ship, so... I also love the bit where May is coming up with her character backstory and stuff like that. She's like, oh, do I want to do this? Kind of have the fall in the family thing. It's like, yeah, do it, but I'm reluctant. And even I says like, why are you doing it? She's like, coming up with my character's backstory. You should do it too. He's like, I'm more improv than method. And I love that literally later on when she has an opportunity to use her backstory, she kind of messed up and she's like, I completely forgot my backstory. That was terrible acting. But nevertheless, I also love the crew that Clive is with. Literally the entire time all that stuff is going down, he's basically in the cantina. Obviously he was making a deal and stuff like that, his other criminal stuff and all that. It was actually interesting because it was like, oh, how did you two actually, oh, you can trust him? It's like, oh yeah, because we basically stole, he was working with you because basically you helped each other steal some food or something like that. And it's like, really, that's enough? It's like, yeah, for him it's like, his stomach will kind of go a long way, so you help him fill his stomach is enough, which Isaac was like, I can attest, I can agree to that point. But I love that literally he was kind of separate from everyone once again, doing that weird thing because they were like, oh, he was like, oh, maybe you guys should go eat, you're kind of skinny or whatever, and Irid's kind of, oh no, we're good, and he's like, yeah, I bet you are, and just kind of looking at them like they're delectable. I'm like, Jesus, dude, how many people do you just eat on a regular basis or something? The fact is that you're responding like that. Like all good plans, nothing goes, well, all plans, nothing ever goes according to plan. So even the guy, they're like, yeah, we're going to steal this guy's key card. Oh, and the guy's not here. Crap. All right, I mean, you're going to have to hack into that. It's like, okay. But I even love Isaac being like, oh, it's just kind of he was almost doing me he's like, oh, wouldn't it have been cool if it was one of those perfectly matched moments of just kind of ta-da, and the door opens or something like that. Because she's hacking isn't just that thing, and you press a few buttons and then boom, the door's open. I kind of half expected the moment she said that the door would open, but it didn't, because showing no, hacking's way more complex than they make it seem like. And I love that. I also love the fact is in the moment they get through the door, the dude who they're supposed to steal the key from shows up. So I'm like, maybe if they had just waited a little bit, they could have just ambushed him, because it literally took just as long. But hey, I guess I also love that home dude. Once again, a thing that I love about this episode too is once again, they give these just random nobodies personalities. These are the equivalent to stormtroopers in Star Wars, and you're giving them personality and stuff like that. That dude being like, oh, this suit is inconvenient, they should do some customization to this because he couldn't eat or drink whatever he was trying to eat. And then later on, there's those dudes, the dude's and I told my dad, it's not the dark side, Dad. And then the lights go off, he's going, whoa, and then the lights come back and he was like, whoa, wait, do you think that was a sign? I'm like, why are we giving these guys why are we giving these people personalities? And I'm loving it. I just love that being, even later on when Lazaro kind of got stuck. I know I'm skipping around, I do apologize, but I love that guy was like, yeah, the admirals are on the line. And then you could see him behind Lazaro just slowly doing that cartoonish kind of back away. I loved it. But nevertheless, I also love the fact is what undid their plans ended up being like what essentially a security bot version of a Roomba, and I love that after like it detected him and they're on the run, like Isaac went back and just kind of like this is on you, and it ends up kicking it. But I also love like he ended up falling through that grate, and I was like, oh, you're just leaving him about. You're making it seem like he fell to his death. It's like no, he literally just fell to the ground below. But I was like, oh, they're like, oh, he's going. We gotta leave him. I was like, oh, he only fell. Well, there's a whole bunch of people coming, but it's not like he fell to his death or something. But it's like, I guess they like the way they were talking about it made it sound like he had fallen to his death. Like he fell a long way or something. It's like no, he literally fell. But it's just kind of like he's going because we can't go back for him and whatnot. So. And it turns into a situation of obviously, Alita wants to go rescue him, but obviously Hafta's like, no, like we gotta go, but we gotta keep moving forward. But Amaya's like, no, like you don't have to handle this on your own either. We look after each other, we have each other's back. So, and Half kind of has to kind of go along with the group of like they want to do this. So it's a rescue mission to save Isaac. And obviously, Amay, like I brought up earlier, that whole thing of like that guy being like, who are you? What are you doing here? And it's like, yeah, so and so said that. She's like, yeah, so and so, and the dude's like, so and so isn't working today. What's your name again? She's like, I probably won't be on the system and stuff like that. I also love that later on she ends up knocking him into the computer and the electric, because at first she knocked him out and he gets up behind her later on, but she ends up knocking his head into the computer. I hope he's not dead. It seemed like that would kind of kill you, being knocked into the computer and most likely electrocuted, but at least that looked pretty painful. But nevertheless, I love it. At the same time, it is a thing of like, oh, gotta wait for the system reboot, so we're gonna be waiting like 10 minutes. So they legitimately had to wait for everything to kind of reboot. And obviously, I thought it was kind of an interesting conversation, because it's that thing back and forth of half of like he had brought this up earlier to Aleda of like, all like, you're basically, this time it was about, the destiny you want versus basically the divine destiny that's kind of put upon you. Because obviously he's like, I don't get why you don't want to be queen and stuff like that. For her, it's just like, she does, like, her blood got her into so much trouble. And it's like, no, that blood, like, just because you shouldn't take it upon yourself, like the oppressors, that isn't on you. Which I wonder, does Aleda kind of think it is on her? It's because she was some naive girl on a throne, no fault of her own, but just the way things worked out. She was a little girl on a throne. You can make the argument that's what, I mean, to be fair, it's just people already had their issues with the royals in the first place, and just her being a little girl on a throne was just icing on the cake. It just gave them the ammunition they needed to spark their revolt in the first place, So, but you could, and she's like, yeah, but I think she does kind of feel a little responsible for it. Like, everything kind of makes it, seem like that kind of weighs on her, like, oh, she is the one for that. But it's just like, for her, it's like, she wants nothing to do with this battle. But he's like, even if you don't want to be queen, we're still talking about your home. Shouldn't you want to fight for that? Fight for your people, And so she's like, if my mom wants to join the fight, then I'll join the fight. I'll be, that's fine by me. And, I'll join the fight then if that's the case. If she's going to fight, she's going to fight for the people, but not fight for her throne. It seems like for them, it's probably like, no, fight for your throne. And then, by fighting for the throne, you're fighting for the people. But Aleda doesn't look at things that way. But for him, it's like, for Hafta, it's like, why are you risking your life for Isaac? Because by doing this, going through so much to save him, the same guy that like sold you out and stuff like that, you risking so much to save him is not only putting your life in danger, it's messing with your attempts to save your mother. And then I like what Aleda was saying, like basically the one divine lesson she never quite got was a thing of just because she's a queen, that her life is more valuable than anyone else, that other people should suffer while others prosper. And that's such an interesting thing, because like, first and foremost, I like that line of like, I'm not putting Isaac's life above my mom's, but basically saying that, like, essentially saying everyone's life is important in this situation, that she's not going to leave anybody behind. Like, when it comes to her, Amay, and Isaac, it's like if one of us fall, we all fall. And I love Amay's on the other line, because it's like she hears that, she's like, oh, she's touched. It's like, it's a really sweet thing. But I also loved because when we got that flashback to her as a little girl on the throne, her mom was telling her, oh, you shouldn't do this because you helping this. That basically everything has a chain reaction of you. But like, that's the thing, like, for her, it's like, you're telling me to let these people suffer a little bit more just so things can kind of keep up a little bit of a status quo. It's like there's a better balance to this whole thing. It's just kind of like, it's not always going to be clear, but you kind of have to, there's always another way type of situation. So I think that was just kind of a perspective she's kind of had in the back of her mind of just like, just because this might complicate things in other areas shouldn't mean we leave other people to kind of, suffer. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting kind of bringing that kind of full circle of just showing you her mentality now that she's older too. Because let's not forget, that was her on the throne when she was a little girl. She's older now. She's in her 20s, so she's a little wiser, especially her experiences as a scavenger has changed her perspective on a lot of things, So, but I also love that we finally get to see what those pink things do, and basically they're like goo, and I love it. And she's like, yeah, who's the guru now? And she looks at Half, she's like, ha ha ha, and Half's not responding. She's like, what, forget it, whatever, let's go. And it's just like, I love her setting up these one-liners and them not landing. It's so good. I love that that's a part of her character. And I love when the dude's being like, no, come, can you let me down? He's like, and just kind of accept it. I'm stuck to this wall for a while. But nevertheless, I also love, Irid, they're trying to get back, to the ships and everything, and I love it. It's like, no, we just need to get some stuff off our ship and we'll be right back. It's like, she's like, I forgot, she's like, I ate something and now I'm going to, like, it's hitting me bad. She's like, it's going to be diarrhea, and the dude's like, ugh. He's like, and points the gun at him. He's like, get back. And as they're walking away, he's shaking his head like, ugh. Like, why do now I have that image in my head. I love home dude that's with him. It's like, oh, I didn't know you ate one. And they're like, I didn't. And he's staring like, I don't get it. And her and home dude just have to go like they wave their hands like, this idiot completely missed the mark. Then there's the whole situation with Lazaro and Isaac. Lazaro, well, for one, I like that bit of like Isaac being like, all right, fine, we're going here. And we're going to be joining a band. They want me on bass, but I'm eyeing vocals, and I'll get you tickets. You look like you don't get out much. And obviously Lazaro probably, I'm sure Isaac's big mouth probably doesn't like help either, but like Lazaro enjoyed beating the crap out of him. It was like, there was a lot of blood on the ground for him beating the crap out of him. It was also interesting. I brought up another thing where he was like, oh, is this cause? I hope it's worth it, because aren't you trying to get back home? So it's almost kind of, and I wonder, is that going to be something floating through Isaac's head of like, yeah, like he's not going to, like, I think that's why he's overcompensating, because he blames himself, because obviously the way things went down between him and Alita, I think because of that, and also feeling a little responsible because he led them to her, not because he did it on purpose by accident, but still, I think he feels a little responsible. Plus, this is still his friend. They were partners for 2 years. So it's like, that bond they created, I think he's reluctant. He would never turn his back on her. But I think it is that thing of like, am I willing to get mixed up in someone else's war? This might make it harder for me. I might not get home to my wife. I don't. Like, it's just the look on his face makes me think that, but, that could be me reading too much into it, It could just be, me, like I said, me overthinking things, because later on when, like, she's patting him up, it's just kind of like, he's like, no, he's making references like, oh, I'm like Rocky at the end of Rocky. He's actually, I'm more like Adonis Creed at the end of Rocky 4, and she's looking at him because she doesn't get the references. He's like, I'm feeling bad. She hits him and just goes like, nah, you'll be good. You're all right. So, but then he's kind of stares off, and that makes me wonder if he was kind of thinking about what Lazaro said, but nevertheless. But, even when they were carrying Isaac out, you still kind of were like, oh man, you kind of felt bad. But then even having gotten the shit kicked out of him, he was still cracking jokes, because she's like, I'll get you back to my ship. He's like, it's my ship. And she's like, well, if you die, it will be my ship, so you better not die. And so obviously the others are stressing, because they're like, oh, where are the others? Like, how would we even know where to find them? Because this place is so massive. And boom, they come out guns blazing, and it's like, oh, there they are. And literally the entire like main area right there turns into like a gunfight. People are scrambling. I even love at one point, Aleda's fighting with that dude who made that deal with Clive over those things. And then she's like, hand him over, and points the gun at him. And then he pulls out one of them, and she's like, you wouldn't dare. He's like, I would. And it's just like, I love that under these circumstances. I mean, to be fair, he probably paid a lot for them. It's like, these are mine. But it's like everything that's going down, you think he'd give them up. But it's not until was it Irid shows up later on, because I love that she came back with like that power armor on or whatever. Once again, got to get our slow mo of the episode, but also just like Alita kicking ass. Even Home Dude and Dengar taking the pink things, throwing them and shooting him, and all the Republic people getting gooed. It very much reminds me of like Spider-Man webbing bad guys or something like that, especially because like the video games in my head right now. But nevertheless, it is sad at the end of the day, though, that, you know, Irid kind of sacrifices herself. And that's still got to be a heavy thing of like, yeah, you were able to save Isaac, but someone else fell too. But it's still that thing of like, you know, I'm sure Hap is kind of like, it still hits hard because it's like, this is a non-loyalist, this is an ally in all of this going. But at the same time, it's like, this person sacrificed himself for you, my queen, so make it worth it type of situation. And honestly, I'd rather her kind of die in a situation like that rather than kind of, you know, getting, you know, grabbed and tortured later on. Hell, even the freaking Clive situation, because they're like, oh, don't worry, they'll leave Clive alone because they're coming after us. But, you know, Lazaro found Clive and shoots him, but a last middle finger, Clive goos him. And granted, he gets out of it later on, but it was just kind of a nice little middle finger before he dies. So I was like, man, that sucks. That it worked out to a certain extent, but it didn't work out that well. Which is also proof that, you know, not everyone's going to make this trip, you know, to rescue Alita's mom. No, not everyone's going to probably make it there, and not everyone's going to make it back in this situation. But still, that kind of sucks to see it play out like that, especially for Dengar, because he was just like, Irid, like it you know, broke his heart to see things kind of play out like that. There was a touching moment between Ame and Alita, which also, like, you know, during that hallway when she kind like dodging fire and stuff like that, and she's like, oh, sorry, she's like, no, it's okay, and it's just like them so close and everything. Like, you feel it kind of go both ways, but last time it seemed like, you know, Ame wasn't 100% clear on the fact is that you can tell Alita really likes her. It seems like it's there, but it's like, I don't, you know, Alita's, I think, not too quick to kind of jump on that whole situation. I mean, who knows, like, you know, how many relationships she's been in. Like, it might not be something she's used to. But also, like, Ame is kind of like, oh, I love people. That came up before, so, like, she's not really probably used to being, like, monogamous, maybe? I don't know. But it was the sweet moment I was talking about is the fact is, you know, it's like, oh, I know that look in your face of, like, oh, like, if you saw your, like, what are you thinking about saying to your mom? You know, and it's like, you know, because May's like, yeah, I think about it all the time, like, you know, telling her what I want to, or like anytime Chaz gets a new tattoo, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I made this whole situation about me rather than it should be what it is, and it's about you. And obviously, you know, Alita was kind of like, no, thanks for everything. You know, it kind of really helped me out. I love to see Isaac's immediately back on his feet being like, oh, is that really what you're going to wear? See, when you finally get to see your mom after all these years? But then they get stuck in the asteroid belt and everything, asteroid field. And I love that Isaac was finding someone. Like, what the fuck is he looking for? And it's like, oh, that's not going to help in this situation. I was like, what is that? And he starts literally taping himself to the seat. I'm like, oh, is that supposed to help? Like, what are you doing? Oh, I love that. I also love how it ends, though, like, them crashing, but, like, it's in the background. All we see in the foreground is this, like, cute little, like, pink alien that looks kind of like an alien rabbit eating something, and it's like, oh, it's super adorable. It kind of reminds me of that dude. We never got to see what Clive actually did to him, but it was that dude who came over and was super annoying. He's like, oh, Dad, like, what was it? He was saying, like, because he thought, like, Clive was his dad or something like that, and Clive just like wrapped his tentacles or whatever around the dude. Like, I was about to say, are you going to snap his neck or something, or did you just cover his mouth? Did you beat the crap? Like, what did you do? Like, we didn't actually see that, so I was curious, like, what ended up happening to the poor bastard. Now that Lazaro's failed again, another interesting thing to think about is, like, obviously, like I was bringing up earlier, like, the admirals were calling again, so it's like, and they said if he failed again, they would be stripping his rank and stuff like that, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see, like, it's so interesting when you actually think about it, because I just thought about it, it's kind of very, like, Prince Zuko a little bit. I mean, granted, his situation a little bit differently. Like, at least Zuko was a little conflicted, and, like, Lazaro, they showed him he's a straight-up psychopath. you know, so it's like, it's a very different situation with, you know, like Zuko, you could be at least a little empathetic for, at least where we stand with Lazaro now. It's like, nah, fuck that guy. He's terrible. He's shitty. He's a terrible person. But it's going to be interesting to see, like, you know, what ends up happening, because I'm sure the admirals are going to tear him a new one because of his failures over and over again. But it's going to be interesting to see where all this ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.